Mark, and so it's time for another live show, and just chatting with everybody in the chat area, and seems like everybody's doing good, which is great. And Thomas also says he got some animation done over the weekend, which is pretty good. And anyway, welcome to the show, everybody. Tonight's show, I guess we have just a lot of different topics to talk about. First off, next week we might have Don Carlson back on the show. And last week we talked to him for, I guess, about 3 hours or something like that. And it was like the longest show ever. And I don't know if everybody got bored to death by the end because we were just making completely stupid jokes and getting off topic a little bit too. But it was nice to talk to Don about his puppet putty, and hopefully you guys maybe learn something, about how he makes it and how it functions a little bit differently than other, kinds of clays out there. So next week, the plan is that he will come on to talk about how to do audio production a little bit. Now that involves, there's so much involved in it. There's recording your voice, there's microphones, there's software, there's, you name it. Don's pretty much covered all that stuff in his career as someone who's more of a musician type person. He's done karaoke in a particular. I guess he goes to like a. I don't know if it's a bar or just a karaoke facility or something, and he's talked about that on Facebook a lot. So I know he knows how to sing, and actually Don and I one time I did a cover to a song. What was that? Probably about maybe, wow, it's been about 4 years, I guess, already. But I did this one song on a guitar where I played the tune from, what was the band? Smashing Pumpkins. And it's that song Today. And I played the song and I posted it on Facebook. And Don said, well, you mind if I put some lyrics to that? So we have a small musical collaboration that we did one time. But I don't know much about actually audio production, and I know enough about Foley and things like that to sort of get by if I have to. But some people they know all the techniques and the terminology and the programs and the equipment and all that. I don't really know much about that, and I don't really keep up with it. My whole thing is more animation, related, and how to animate and making puppets and the latest technology and with regards to that. So that should be kind of fun. And I think he also mentioned possibly having on somebody maybe with him that might also be on the show that also does that kind of work. And so for me, it would be a big learning experience, and hopefully for you guys out there as well. All right, so what else? Now I can also mention possibly here, if I can get it up. There we go. So we've got here a T-Rex head that I'm working on in Tinkercad. I don't know if you guys have ever messed with this. I've brought this up in the past. Tinkercad, it's a web page where you can create stuff three-dimensionally. And if you have a 3D printer, you can print out your creations. And there's a lot to it. I'm not going to give you guys a tutorial or anything like that to know how to do this, but I worked, I guess maybe about, it took me several days to make this, and then I printed out a version of it, and I didn't like the results completely because I had the head suspended and I had this rear part protruding out the back, and the way that it printed wasn't as clean as it could be if the front mouth part is actually on the build plate of my 3D printer. So I lowered the whole thing and I raised the back part up, and I'm going to reprint this and see how it works out. But this is the head of a T-Rex for a new Bendy's armature kit that I'm working on. So I think this might be, something that will be pretty fun to animate. I still haven't animated my first creation, the human armature yet. That's something I might do really soon, because after I complete a job for somebody that I'm molding and casting something for them right now, but after I'm done with that, I might actually set up a table with my human armature kit and see how that works out. So anyway, I just wanted to show that to you guys. So Tinkercad, if you guys want to make stuff like this yourself, make your own armatures or armature parts, Tinkercad.com. It's Tinkercad. You just go in there and you sign up, and it's basically a free account. And you can see some of the stuff that I've worked on in the past. I've got all kinds of parts, mostly mechanical. It's better for more mechanical than it is sort of organic shapes and things like that. If you guys want a free program to make organic shapes, more rounded shapes. In fact, when I made the T-Rex skull, and let's see, the T-Rex skull is not loading on the front page here, but you can see the human skull here is rounded, and that organic round shape, as well as the hands, I created in Sculptress. So that's just something you guys might want to try out sometime. And Sculptress is a free program that you can just go to, probably just search for it on Google, and it's SCULPTRIS. So check it out. All right. Now, speaking of programs, there's this new program that came out, and it's been released to the public. And this is kind of an interesting thing that I've not tried it. I just found out about it today, and I wanted to share it with everybody because, first off, it is free, and it's a graphics program. And of course, like Photoshop and all these other programs that are cloud-based, and you have to pay a monthly fee. For most of us that don't really need Photoshop in terms of we don't I don't really use Photoshop every single day. I use it a lot, but it doesn't really like if I were to pay for it, it just doesn't benefit me so much. I just think it's too much money for what I use it for. So free programs are really good, and this one here is called Krita or Krita. I'm not really sure. I imagine it's probably Krita. And it is version 3.0, and they have this release that gives you the ability to do animation. So I think the way that it works is that you can use layers, and the first layer being your first pose, and maybe you can even do something like pose-to-pose animation here where you actually sketch out your character in your main poses and then do in-betweens because it allows for onion skinning. And you can also, here's the thing that I'm thinking in terms of stop motion is you can import image sequences. Import any set of images as an animated layer automatically sorted by naming scheme. So, for example, if you used Dragon Frame or if you use Stop Motion Pro, and this is, I believe, Windows and Mac. And I'm sorry, I'm not reading all your comments. I'm just kind of blabbing here, so I apologize, guys. But basically, you can import your images from there. You can actually export. Like if you use Dragon Frame, one of the export possibilities is, of course, you can export it as a movie file, a QuickTime movie file, or I believe Windows Media file as well. So you can edit it in different editing programs. But if you wanted to export as an image sequence, you could automatically import that because they'll be numbered. Let's say, it would be like, image 1, image 2, image 3. And so the sequence would actually work in this program where you can just load it up. And why is this good? Well, of course, if you want to quickly erase a rig, or if you wanted to add effects that you paint into the scene, like a lightsaber or something, maybe you wanted to add swish lines, or you wanted to add little stars that come out of a magic wand, or whatever it might be, you could use this, or like a laser blast or something. So to me, this just sounds really like the perfect program for animators to do that. So I'm gonna go to their features. So it's open source, it's free. It's a tool designed for concept artists, illustrators, matte and texture artists, and the VFX industry. Krita has been developed for over 10 years and has had an explosion in growth recently. It offers many common and innovative features to help the amateur and professional alike. Now, I've never heard of it before, but evidently it's a lot of people have used it. Maybe some people like it over other programs. Um, yeah, so they've got a user interface section. It's got an intuitive user interface. Brush stabilizers have a shaky hand and a stabilizer to your brush to smooth it out, which is kind of cool. Includes 3 different ways to smooth and stabilize your brush strokes. There is even a dedicated dynamic brush tool where you can add, drag, and mass. So that's pretty cool. So I imagine, most people would probably use like a Wacom tablet, or perhaps they would use a tablet just to, use like a little pointer. What do you call those little pointers on a aluminum stick, like a rubber tipped stick? I forget what they call those, but I see them sold everywhere. And then they've got a pop-up palette as well, which is really neat. And this kind of reminds me of that one program we showed on here. What was that? That would be... I know I've got it here someplace on my computer. I've got a lot of programs that I haven't really used. Oh, I can't remember now. Where is it? I don't see it. Oh, Sketchbook. Yeah, Sketchbook is the program where I guess I've seen this, where there's like a little pop-up round palette that you can click on, and then a little thing pops out, and you can select like the brush size and everything. It's really neat. But I think that's kind of where tablet users would benefit more from that. It's more for your fingers than something like Photoshop, which has like a little pop-up bar where you can click on what you need. It's got a brush engine as well. You can customize your brushes with 9 unique brush engines. Each engine has a large amount of settings to customize your brush. Each brush engine is made to satisfy a specific need, such as color smudge engine, shape engine, particle engine, and even a filter engine. Once you are done creating your brushes, you can save them and organize them with Krita's unique tagging system. It's got wraparound mode, so you can create patterns, which is neat. It's got a resource manager. So it says here that you can create brushes and you can share them with others, which is actually really cool for any sort of bigger production, sharing your creations. But I guess for the online community as well. They've got brush packs, so it seems pretty diverse, and there's a lot you can do with this. So there's a lot more information if you guys are interested. It's at Krita, KRITA.org. And it's just really, like I say, it's free. It has a lot you can do with it, and it's something that animators, I think, would be wise to experiment with, especially if you're wanting something dedicated to, importing your images for editing. So that just seems like the most user-friendly way is to use this. And I know that Photoshop also has similar things. You can batch import images and so forth, but I'm not sure you can actually, maybe you can now. I know there's more animation features in Photoshop, but I don't know how you import image sequences into Photoshop. All I know is that you can create an image sequence in there, but I'm not sure about importing for animation purposes. I don't know. We got a gallery here we can just check out real quick, and you can see oh, okay, there we go. Where are we? I think my internet's a little bit slow. So you can see, some of the amazing things that people can do here. You got some cartoony to realistic to like this sort of anime thing going on here. We've got some comic book sort of illustrative designs, and this here looks a lot like maybe watercolors, which is really interesting. Let's see if we can load that one. So this must be some sort of a filter that they used, similar to what Photoshop has, So that's pretty neat. I think that looks very, very good. The art is great, and I think if the tools and the artists can get along in a friendly way, if you can put it that way, it works well, you'll see great art, and yeah, and it's good art. So I've also got artist interviews and so forth, and they've got a learning section, and I think this might have some tutorials, which would be great. Getting started, reference manual, general concepts, frequently asked questions, and resources. And I would imagine as well on YouTube you could probably find a ton of just tutorials out there, people screen grabbing their animations and all that kind of stuff, which is cool. They got a shop. I'm not sure what they sell. Maybe just donations. So they've got like a DVD, Muses, 5 hours of detailed path instructions covering the whole process from setting up Krita to printing a finished work of art. That's pretty cool. So it's pretty nice that they've got that in case you don't want to have to go through like 500 YouTube videos and tutorials. All right, so Jason is asking, doesn't Mac upgrade for free? I think it does. Yeah, I know that on my Macintosh, my Mac Mini, it offers the option to upgrade to the latest version, which I really need to update it. And I think I need to update DragonFrame. DragonFrame has been, anytime I turn on my Mac Mini, there's a DragonFrame update, which I think I'm probably falling behind a little bit because it's been probably a year since probably not that long, maybe 6 months since I updated it. So, Janet says she needs to buy a new laptop. I'm not sure how, what the requirements are for this. Like, what is the... I'm not even sure they list it here. Seems like they would someplace. No, maybe in the FAQ. Let's go here. No, I don't think I saw that here, did I? Training, color... I don't know. It may even be where it like if you have a slow computer, it might actually modify the way it works so it would work for your machine, but I'm not sure. Because, I mean, everybody uses tablets now, which are maybe not as fast as, quad-core PCs and whatnot. And Ron says, I've been wanting to get a Mac Mini, I think it's called, that you hook up to your existing machine. But it's a whole new set of guts. So your old machine is basically just a screen for it. They have like a Mac Mini server. Have you ever seen that? So if you wanted to hook up other computers together, other Macs together, I believe you can hook up a bunch to that. And also you could probably use it for... like a website too, like an actual server where you can broadcast your website from, which is kind of a neat thing, but I don't know how well that would work over broadband, especially if your website is, user, like if there's a lot of processes going on in the background. So Beard says they either added or are adding a cool new color blending mode to Krita too that matches the brush to the opacity level of the underlying painting for smoother blends. So it's developing pretty nice. That sounds good. Yeah, it's great. I mean, for the price, and even if it didn't have that feature, it sounds pretty good even as it is, And Nick says, real pencils are best. They clean up and enhance on the computer. And Beard says, I find Krita to be more lightweight than Adobe software, so it shouldn't be that big of a problem. That's good. So yeah, maybe Janet doesn't need to buy a new laptop. Maybe it won't really bother her, too much in terms of slowing her brush strokes down to where she can't really use it. So Ron says, I began my career as an illustrator, and when I do the same thing on the computer, I never feel like I'm really drawing or painting. I feel like it's just a simulation. That's gonna change pretty soon. Some of the the next iPhones that are coming out have a new technology where, the main reason why it feels like that is there's no feedback. So when you use a mouse, or you use, let's say, a Wacom tablet, and you use one of those wands or pens or whatever you call them, there's no feeling to it. You can't touch it, right? It's just a smooth screen. And then you might be, for example, using even like ZBrush, which is a 3D sculpting program, and you're turning your parts and you're trying to put textures or whatever, and wherever your mouse is, or wherever your wand is, or your finger on your tablet, you really can't feel that object. And what they're doing next, which is kind of exciting, is they're inserting small vibrating motors around the edge of your tablets and your cell phones. And what they do is they vibrate at a certain frequency, right? Sounds kind of weird. It doesn't sound like this would work, and I've never tried it myself. I've only seen a couple of videos on it. And when you touch the screen, you actually feel the texture that you're touching. So if you had, let's say, a wicker basket photo that a close-up of a wicker basket, like the actual wicker textured grass or whatever they use to make wicker. Maybe they use wicker. I don't know. Maybe that's what it is. But when you run your finger over it, you don't actually feel anything, right? It's smooth. But these small vibrating motors and the processor inside know where your finger is on the surface as you move it. And they vibrate in such a way that you can feel the bumps and the valleys on the surface. So this is something that I think is going to help artists in the future. And like what Ron is saying about, it just doesn't, it feels like a simulation and so forth, which it is, right? But that may help some artists, bridge the digital divide, or whatever you want to call it. It's just, that's one of the problems I have too, is using any kind of, like if you go to the grocery store and they ask you to sign your name on one of those touch screens, those, little square light up boxes that has a little line, it says sign here, and you sign it with one of those pens, and there's like a piece of glass or something that's so far away from where the line is underneath as you press that it feels like you're writing in midair. And I always, just trying to sign your name is 10 times harder. So the technology is going to get there, and I think that painting and that kind of a thing is going to be, well, it's still not going to be the same as the real deal, but it's going to be closer anyway. So Jasmine says, I do rough hand-drawn animation in Toon Boom or Photoshop, then print it out and use a light box and more paper and pen to clean it up. Ah, yeah, haptic feedback. Yeah, that's exactly what it's called. Yep. So you've actually tried something that has haptic feedback, where it vibrates and you can feel the textures on there. That's neat. Janet says, I don't feel soul in CGI and Flash cartoons like in hand-drawn. And Gabriel says it's all in the artist. Yeah, I think this generation currently will probably embrace it completely, and maybe they'll say in like in 50 years, when I was a kid, we had haptic feedback, and that was the best thing, and nowadays we have this, whatever, and it just doesn't feel right, It's just, I guess whatever you're sort of used to, you're born into it, the causes and conditions of your life are just in such a way. And Beard says, I don't have a preference over animating on paper or digitally, but grew up using both mediums since I was younger. So you're a halfway person. I understand. And Ron says, but if it simulates real sculpting that well, then why not just use real clay? Good question. Well, I think with like ZBrush or Sculptress, it's just way more efficient. I think that's something that you agreed on, Ron, a long time ago when we talked about this, is that these programs, you sculpt one half and the other half is sculpted and you don't have to spend as much time on it. The problem is, of course, how you print it out. If it doesn't come out the way that you sculpted it, and there's problems there, of course, it's not really a benefit, is it? Even if it does that. But so Ron says, I'd rather do a real sculpture and scan it if I need to for making printed molds. That would be cool. Yeah, that whole printed mold thing, I think it's it's getting there. I think we can do that probably within the next few years. We can do that really nicely, but I still don't know if you can print out something that has no textures in it for someone like you or I to afford, because any kind of, like, what is it, the Formlabs printer, the printing resolution is so great on those printers, and there's almost no texture at all. But man, the price is just so expensive. So I don't think that most of us can afford that yet. And making a mold, I'm trying to think, like, just my printer, the largest height on my Wanhao Duplicator i3 printer is somewhere around, I'm thinking about 11 inches or so. So any molds that are outside that dimension, I'd have to chop up, and I still couldn't do that with my printer. So I don't know if and I know that there's something called Ninja Flex. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Ninja Flex. It's a filament that prints out, and it's flexible. So you can technically make molds from that, but on the printers that I have, the resolution is just not fine enough. Just not fine enough. So, all right. So, anyways, yeah, there's just, sculpting in digital. I mean, pretty much anything you can do in the physical world, you can do in the digital world now, which is, you have to make a choice, and there's no wrong or right choice. It's whatever you're good at, whatever you feel comfortable with, and that's it, really. I prefer, kind of both too. I like sculpting digitally, but I find it a little bit more frustrating. All right. So let's change the topic now. I want to talk about. We have about 30 minutes left, and the rest of the show I kind of want to devote to the aesthetics of making a film. And I don't know if I've brought this up in the past. I think I might have talked about this probably with regards to puppets and puppet design. And of course, 3D printing can be used to make sets and puppets, so I guess that's not really totally far off topic. But the look of a film, I think, is something that a lot of people don't really pay enough attention to. And the ones that do pay attention to it, I notice, have a lot more success with their films on the internet in terms of popularity. It's kind of like the aesthetics. Aesthetics, let me just kind of define what that means in case you guys don't really understand, is kind of the look of the film, like how it appears in terms of textures and colors, and maybe in terms of course, the lighting is also part of that, because a lot of people never really use lighting as much as they can. People focus, I noticed, more on the puppets and trying to animate a simple animation with a puppet, and kind of disregard a lot of other parts. And there's nothing really wrong with just doing a straight ahead animation, maybe setting up a simple set where the character can walk, and just doing that to get practice. But when you're trying to make a film and it has actual a storyline, maybe a soundtrack, and maybe some music, that kind of a thing, where you kind of take it more seriously, the whole entire film can fall apart based on one of the weakest sort of links in the chain. So if you have, for example, you built a really awesome set and you have awesome puppets, and then you light it with a fluorescent light, and then that lighting has a flicker, and as you watch your animation, you don't care about the flicker, and you finally edit your film, and the flicker, it might be to you not like an inconsequential thing, but to the audience it might be just distracting enough to where they kind of miss the storyline, or they miss seeing the character pick something up, because in the previous scene they're like, oh, I just noticed that the flicker was so horrible, and they're thinking daydreaming about that problem in your film as the film is going forward, and they miss the whole point. And so one of the things that people need to think about and take a little bit more seriously, I think, is just trying to figure out what they want to get across to the audience outside of just the puppet and the animation. So if you let me just go on maybe Google and see here what I can do. Okay, do a quick search. All right. So if I do a quick image search on Google, and I typed in scary castle. Now, if you guys don't type that in, what colors would you associate with a scary castle? What is your thought on that? Would it be maybe yellow or green or orange, or what would you think? Well, most artists evidently seem to like the color blue, and also and some yellows. Now these kind of give you some ideas on what people would initially imagine in their minds, as a scary place, a dark castle. So we got lots of sort of black and white, and lots of dark, smoky atmospheres. You notice a lot of these have clouds and lightning, and they have maybe some smoke, and then we've got some bats flapping around in front of this one. We've got maybe some brown, maybe dark brown tones. But you'll notice the overall lighting of all these is dark, kind of nighttime and scary. And these are things that I think when you watch a film, the first thing that comes across in your very first shot is going to be the lighting, right? The lighting, and maybe the audio as well. These are sort of the things that pop out at you. And that sets the mood for the rest of your film. So, these kind of... So Ron was saying he thought of blue-gray, and Beard Botnick says blacks and purples, and Nick says cool gray mostly. So you guys have all pretty much hit on all of the colors that are popping out here in this image search. Now you don't have to follow the images, of course, but these are just things that are, I think most artists would envision. So whatever that vision is in your mind, that's what you need to get across, because that's what you're expressing. And so putting this, your ideas on paper, you might think about writing down the environment might be on an alien planet, like an alien based castle somewhere, and this would be more green and turquoise and reds, and so think about what you want to do and write down on a list the colors and try and stick with that. And then you have to ask yourself, do you want to stick with that the whole film? Do you want to stick with that just in the beginning part? How does it make you feel? And just go and change your lighting and your whatever you want appropriately. But let me see if there's anything I can show you guys. Let's see here. So this one here, this looks like a really good one. All right. I think this is some sort of display somewhere or something. I'm not sure. But this would be a great kind of a lighting scheme, right? Now, if you like this particular lighting scheme, what are some ways to light things, right? I'll tell you something that I saw yesterday that I think is really, really cool. And maybe you guys have seen these. I'm going to, let's see. Now this is going to be the future of lighting. And most people have probably seen these if you go to Home Depot. Let's see. Just gotta make sure I had the right thing up here before I show you guys. And gals. I think this might be the one. Let me see. Ah, okay, it is. Yep. All right. So, traditionally, once you've figured out, like for example, you want to light your set like this, what do? And most people will go on an online store and get some 3-inch Fresnels or other halogen-based bulbs. Well, check this out. Now, this is a new type of light bulb. And what it does is you can actually change the color of your light bulb to anything. We can do purples, yellows, reds, browns. Well, not brown, but probably more like a deep reddish kind of color. Any color that you can imagine can be picked on this particular bulb. So when it comes to a bulb that doesn't have a lot of heat and you can make it any color, this is a new Philips bulb that I think is really awesome. And I think it's essentially LED based, doesn't use a lot of energy. Let's see, and it's controlled by a smartphone or tablet. All shades of white light and all colors to match at any moment in your home. Sync your lights with music, movies, and games. So if you want to change the color of your light, let's say you have a scene that is where the sun is coming up, you can change it from, I guess, more red tones to yellow, and then finally to a white color. So it says here the Hue White and Color Ambience BR30 single bulb is a personal wireless lighting system providing you with full control of your lighting from your smartphone or tablet. With all shades of white light and colors to choose from, there are limitless possibilities to turn your everyday lighting into an extraordinary experience. With Hue, you can paint with light and change the mood of your home to match any moment with just the press of a button. You can customize your daily routines using all shades of white light to help you energize, concentrate, and relax throughout the day. Let Hue wake you up gently for a fresh start to each day instead of an abrupt alarm. Would that really work? I don't know. And relax with the cozy, warm light before falling to sleep. If you're working late, etc., blah, 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 blah. All that stuff's not really important, but they're trying to make a sale, so they kind of make it seem like you can do anything with it. But the most important thing is that you can essentially light your sets with any color with one bulb. There's no need for any kind of lighting gels or anything like that. So this to me seems like the future of lighting. This is just one type of bulb. I'm sure there's others, but I find this really exciting. Also, given the length of time before one of these will die, because it's LED based, it's going to last forever. And if you guys have ever used halogen bulbs, they're very hot. They heat up your studio. Sometimes the gels will burn, and it's just a real pain in the butt. But these here, man, that's just so awesome. Yeah, so what else? So that's pretty much one of the things I want to show you guys, a new technology for lighting. And yeah, so you get the mood and aesthetic through lighting, and that's one way to do it. Also, the shape of your set. So something that is usually scary is, in most cases, it's going to be dark. It's going to be blue tones and scary, and it's going to be pointy. Oh. I'm doing a live show right now, little boy.
Oh, I forgot.
All right.
I forgot.
Okay. Well, come back later, okay? Got about 20 more minutes.
I know.
All right. So, anyway. So a set like this, you know, it's a simple set, but you notice there's a lot of creepy curves and shapes here. These are things to think about. So you've got pointed rooftops and pointed, even the windows are pointy. And Ron says, "Ha!" But it looks great in the fantasy world of movies. That's all that really matters. Oh, okay. You guys are, yeah, different topic. Gotcha. But anyways, so you know, things to think about are shape, color, lighting. Those are some of the most important things. And then if you can get all those things, atmosphere is the next thing. And as we were talking about before with Krita, you can use graphics programs to add fog or clouds, things like that, which are translucent that you want to add in your scene. And in the case of someone like Ron Cole, who's a painter, really good at painting, he would probably choose to make a scene like this with a painted sky in the back, which is another thing you can do. And if you wanted to go really old school, you can even use rear screen projection material and project a painting on the back of your set. And that's actually my personal favorite way to do it, would be to do that if I could, only because it actually adds light behind your set and it looks more realistic. But that's just one technique that they used to use in Hollywood and in Dynamation and all that. But something like this where we've got clouds, that really adds a lot of mood and atmosphere to your scene. And it appears that this person, I don't think it works too well, but they put some like white streaks like raindrops here. But I don't think it looks so great. So Ron says, I was watching the TV show Land of the Lost recently, and most of these shows take place in their cave. There's total room lighting in there, but no light sources. It's wrong, but who cares, right? Yeah, it doesn't always have to make sense. I think, especially in any scenes that are fast, and you're not going to give the audience enough time to sort of examine everything, you can get away with a lot of stuff. And Randy says, the story just doesn't work if there's no light to see it by. That's a good point. I've never watched a movie without lights. And Thomas says I should get back to my digital fog experiments for stop motions using stereoscopic data to generate a depth map. Sounded really promising. Yeah. Now, I don't know. I wonder if Leica did that on Paranorman. I never watched it in 3D. I only saw it on Netflix after it came out. But yeah, I wonder how they do that. It seems like it would be really complicated. I imagine you need like a special 3D program and have to figure out the ocular distances and all kinds of stuff to make that work. Especially if you want to make it work with a real set. All right. Some really nice pictures on here. Let's see. That's great. Gonna have a spacey digital image there. But those things kind of make you feel creepy, just by the lighting and the shapes and all. But we could type something like, let's type in happy castle. Is there a such thing? I guess there is. All right, so here's a happy castle, right? So we've got here's a cool one. Looks like Disney, some kind of Disney painting here. I'll probably get flagged on YouTube and sued for $1 million for showing this, but here's a happy castle. You can see the lighting is very bright, and we got yellows, and we've got lots of people standing there. We've got flowers, And we've got some like weeping willow tree here and a tree with flowers here. And we've got some stands with more, lighting here, which is bright. And it looks very happy, right? So just think about how the lighting changes the entire mood of this shot, if it were a shot, right? How it makes everything stand out. And the castle does not look like a menacing place to visit. Like you could walk there and you'd see, some nice people, and it's a happy place. So just, the importance of lighting, I can't really stress enough. We can see some others here. We've got this one. And again, you'll notice the artist that created these used a lot of yellows and bright colors. See if there's any others. So we've got here, which is Happy Wars Castle Defense. And that popped up for Happy Castle. It's kind of a neat abstract one here. Check that out. That's really cool. Really nice painting. And even though it's abstract, you get the point. You just get the feeling of it just by the colors and by the leaves, and everything's green and alive, and got some nice patterns going on here. So a much different experience for the audience just by changing the colors and the intensity of the light. It's another one. And I guess this is probably a real castle someplace. But very lush and green. And again, you'll notice up here it's bright. So no dark, shadowy places for monsters to hide, and your imagination can't see any monsters there, and everything is pretty much out in the open, and that's really nice. Check it out. All right. Jason says about that last one, the first one, that the streets look dangerously slippery. Yeah, that's the most dangerous part of it. You can slip on your butt. Now, let's see. So Beard says, or let me see. Let me back up. Make sure I got all this here. Slee stacks. What are those? I don't remember. Some kind of crazy monsters. Probably people in rubber suits or something. So Beard is saying, yeah, that's the first thing I saw when I looked at how the Kinect's cameras work. And Nick says, those digital fog tests look really interesting. I certainly haven't solved that problem yet. I was thinking about trying to solve the problem of making a 3D camera from one DSLR where you don't have to buy like 25 cameras and put them in a ball just to have like a 360-degree view of your set, which is ridiculous. I know we talked about that in the past where we use like GoPros and whatnot for that, but I'll probably say that for another show, because I've kind of come up with a solution, but I don't have any way of making the software for that solution. So anyway, what else can we look up here? So Happy Castles, or let's see. All right, let's put a sad scene. Just typing in here sad scene and see what happens. So we have a film. Let's say we have a character that's really sad. And if you guys remember Nightmare Before Christmas, where Jack Skellington, he kind of goes into a depression and so forth, and feels like nobody understands him and all of that. And we know that through animation, you can create a sad feel of a character by animating them walking slowly, maybe having their head hanging down, dragging their feet. Just imagine a depressed person and how they move, and how that kind of sets the mood of your shot. But take a character like that, Jack Skellington, where he was in that sort of dreary, dark atmosphere at nighttime, and there's all these like bendy shapes, like wrought iron fences and things like that, and tombstones and texture, and everything's black, right? Now take that character Jack Skellington and put him in Disneyland where everything is brightly lit. You look at someone like that and you go, how can they be sad? So the background and the lighting in Nightmare Before Christmas tells you that that scene is a sad scene, even if you take Jack Skellington and toss him out. So looking at some of these, let's see what we've got. We've got this here. So this is just titled Sad Scene. And check it out, right? There's nobody there. There's no character. There's no person. But you look at the chair and you kind of see the environment is falling apart. And the person here is probably long gone. And you feel like, oh. And then look at the way the light is, too. Coming through a window. And it's illuminating this chair. And it makes you feel like, oh, somebody must have lived there. Maybe they had a happy life and then something bad happened, right? Maybe they got, a disease, or they lost all their money, their job, or maybe they were old and they passed on. So that's kind of what you feel, right? And it's dark and quite frankly depressing. So it's something that... So here's another type of unusually similar picture of a similar scene. Sad character on a bench. Nothing really around. Kind of lonely, right? Got this here. Foggy scene. Again, fog. Got atmosphere. Something to think about. How can we do that in stop motion, right? To emulate this effect if we really wanted to. We can use things like wedding veil material, and we can do this in layers for fog. Wedding veil material on stretched out on large, what do you call them? Like a frame. It's called a scrim, SCRIM, I believe. And when you add layers of wedding veil material, the more layers you have, the more the rear of your set will appear to be further into a misty situation. So we can add fog. We can have single lights like this one. That's another one. So it seems a sad scene has a lot of people tend to go with fog and things like that. Now, to me, this doesn't really look sad, but again, for some reason, Google, I guess maybe people says winter sad scene alone, tree beautiful HD wallpapers. So I guess the point here is that there's no people there. It's kind of a lonely place. And of course, then the characters, right? So we have people with these sort of sad expressions and tears and things like that. But the set itself is what would really... this is cool. The set itself really makes a difference with the lighting and so forth. So let's see. Ron is saying, on Sinbad, we never spoke to each other. Not much anyways. Everybody did their own thing. And Hoser Lou says, it's all a blur of golden slee stacks to me at this point. I don't know what slee stacks are, guys. I'm completely idiotic when it comes to that. I need to Google it later. Jason says, the final scene of Guardians of the Galaxy makes me laugh. The dark bad guy stepping out of the ship into full daylight, surrounded by curious onlookers. He looks so out of place with that lighting. Ah, okay. Yeah, so that transition, a transition with a character from, from a dark underground hell-like place into a happy place that has a carnival atmosphere. yeah, that invokes that kind of a reaction, right? It makes you laugh. Like, what is he doing there? You don't belong there, right? So exactly, that's a great example of how you can how you can set a mood through. Let's see here. Let's see. How about funny places? Images. Photoshop yourself into North Korea. Okay. That's a new category. Come on, Google. Are you going to work? You don't want to work? Come on. There we go. All right. All right. Butthole Road. Yeah, that would be kind of funny. Let's see. That poor cow. That's not a good thing there. Yeah, that's pretty neat. So, a funny place. Looks like this person decided to call us a funny place. I guess because of the cartoonish, like, angularity to the roof and everything. So Ron says, I'm a Land of the Lost mega fan, but only the original 3 seasons. The only real Land of the Lost there is. Is that so? And Ron says, the entire TV series of Land of the Lost is on YouTube. Watch all of the first 3 seasons and learn what and who the Slee Stacks are. You'll be glad you did. I'm sure I will. It might take me about 10 years to watch the entire thing though. So Hoser Loose says next monthly challenge is Slee Stacks. Good idea. Maybe we can do that. Alright, Matas, welcome to the show. And Nick says, I've never seen Lord of the, or LOTL, is it Lord of the Rings you mean, either? Was probably in New Zealand and didn't have a TV even if it was shown there at the time. I should check out YouTube. Yeah. Yeah, my sister and brother-in-law are very big fans of Lord of the Rings, and I've probably watched half of one movie, but that's about it. I never got into it, and heard it's great. I've seen some scenes with the CG, and some of it looks kind of repulsive. I mean, it looks really fake. Not repulsive in terms of the story, probably it's good, but some of the scenes look really cheesy that I saw, so I'm not really enthusiastic to watch the whole thing. Sad to say. Not that I'm biased, but so alright, well, what time is it? We got about a minute left. Wow, time went by really quick tonight. So funny places. Let's see. Oh, it's pretty funny. So I can see how that's kind of humorous. Looks like a couple of eyes and a mouth and a nose. Alright, well anyway, hopefully I gave you guys some ideas, and hopefully you guys can check out that Krita 3.0 and try it out for yourselves. I guess that does wrap up tonight's show. Like I said, next week Don Carlson should be on to talk about audio and how we can use audio for our films, or maybe just for experimentation and so forth, to see if we're any good at it and want to pursue it for our filmmaking purposes. And Land of the Lost. I got you, Ron. Okay. Yeah, I should have been able to figure that out. What's wrong with me? Pretty obvious now that I see it. Okay. All right. Well, anyway, guys, thanks for stopping by. If you guys want to talk about audio next week, make sure to chime in the chat as always, and I'll see you guys all later. Goodbye.